of Dawlish Town Council on the 3rd of February. Thank you to all those who have joined the meeting this evening and watching live on Facebook and elsewhere. To ensure that this meeting runs as smoothly as possible, all participants have been muted and can only be unmuted by the Town Clerk on my instruction. Those councillors wishing to speak this evening, please click on Participants and you will see the option to raise your virtual hand. The Town Clerk will then assist me with the order of debate as we consider tonight's agenda items. Should there be any disruption to the meeting, the individual will be warned once by myself, and if the disruption continues, I will ask the Town Clerk to remove them from the meeting. Those being removed will not be permitted to re-enter. Virtual meetings are being recorded and live streamed, and therefore, should you not wish for your image to be recorded, please turn your camera off now. So I'd now like to begin the meeting, starting with number 6 on the For Information page about the recording of the meeting. So as I've just said, this meeting is being recorded. Public participation. Members of the public will be given an opportunity to address councillors here regarding agenda items at the discretion of the chair. Members of the public will be given an opportunity to discuss town council activities not on the current agenda after the close of the meeting. The comments of members of the public and electors of the parish who speak before the start or following the close of the meeting will not form part of the minutes of the meeting. So I see we have a member of the public here this evening with us. Do you have any questions for us this evening?
No, thank you. I'm just Nick Knight from the Mid-Devon Advertiser and Dawlish Gazette. So I'm just coming in to meet you all tonight and say hello.
Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you. Okay, so turning over then to the start of the meeting on page 3. You may have already heard this week the sad news that Reverend Tom Bush has passed away. He was a former town councillor and mayor of Dawlish between 2006 and 2007. And so I would like to begin this meeting by asking you all a minute's silence in respect and remembrance of Reverend Tom Bush.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, members. Okay, so items on page 3, apologies for absence.
Just an apology received from Councillor Woods, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Do all councillors raise a hand, please, to accept that apology?
Thank you.
Thank you. So item number 2, agreement of the agenda between parts 1 and part 2. I see that we do not have a part 2, so that's fine. Number 3, declarations of interest to declare any disclosable interests relating to tonight's agenda. Are there any declarations of interest from any councillors? No, okay, thank you. Dispensations, to receive and consider requests for dispensation, if there are any.
None received, Chairman.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So minutes to approve, sign and adopt the minutes of Town Council meeting held on the held last Wednesday, the 27th of January. So are members happy to adopt those minutes and approve them? All in favour, please raise a hand.
That's unanimous, Chairman.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so minutes of committees for adoption. To receive the minutes of the following committees for adoption, and we'll take them all together. So we have the Civic Amenities Committee held on the 25th of November last year. The Events Committee meeting held on the 3rd of November 2020. The Finance and General Purposes Committee held on the 26th of November last year. The Manor House and Riverside Centre Committee held on the 25th of November, and then the Planning Committee meetings held on the 17th of December 2020 and the 14th of January this year. So could I ask for the chairs of those committees, please, to put those meetings forward for adoption, please? So first of all, CAC, please.
Madam Mayor, I would like to bring before this committee the Civic Amenities Committee meeting minutes from the 25th of November for adoption.
Thank you, Councillor Moorhood. And can I have a second for that meeting, please? Thank you, Councillor Prowse. Okay, so Events Committee, please, can I ask the Chair to present those for adoption?
Madam Mayor, I offer for adoption the minutes of the Events Committee meeting held on the 3rd of November 2020.
Thank you very much. And can I ask for a second for those, please? Thank you, Councillor Tamlin. Will you both put your hands up together? Thank you. The F&GP Committee meeting minutes for adoption, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I present the minutes of the Finance and General Purposes Committee, please, held on 26th of November last year?
Thank you very much, Councillor Wrigley. Can I ask for a second, please, for those? Thank you, Councillor Lowther. Thank you. The Manor House and Riverside Centre Committee minutes for adoption, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to present the minutes of the Manor House and Riverside Committee on the 25th of November of 2020 for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Main, and thank you, Councillor Lowther, for seconding those. And then finally, we have the minutes of the Planning Committee, please, for presenting for adoption.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to present the meeting minutes for the 17th of December 2020 and the 14th of January 2021 for the Planning Committee to be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Goodman-Bradbury. Can I ask for a second for those, please? Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Thank you. So could I ask councillors to raise a hand for adoption of all those minutes, please? Perfect. Thank you. So then moving on to Town Clerk's reports, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just three matters to bring to members' attention. We've received communication, and some members will already be aware of this, from Teambridge regarding the former CIC monies, which were held when the CIC wound itself up. The monies are owned by the two town councils, Dawlish and Teignmouth, and Teambridge are content to pass the monies back to us so long as we can demonstrate what they'll be used for. And of course, as it's already been before us, it's going to rejuvenate the Love Teignmouth and Love Dawlish website. So we anticipate that happening fairly shortly. Many of you will be aware that Angie, who'll be joining us later, has been leading the marshalling effort at the community hospital for the vaccination programme. I think there's a really good collaboration going on there, not just with town council volunteers, but also Carnival. There are some Rotary members helping out, so it's a real community effort. And I know that the NHS are very grateful for the support they've been given to ensure that people's visits have been going as smooth as possible. And lastly, we've had our first bit of good news on the government's Kickstart scheme, in that the Gateway application, which is an umbrella organisation that puts forward a number of applications on behalf of varying organisations, which in our case was Torbay Borough Council. It's been successful, so we now move on to the next stage to send through the job particulars of what we're able to offer, which will then be examined by the Department of Work and Pensions to see if it is eligible for the scheme, and they will then recommend eligible individuals to us to apply for the roles. So we're starting to move forward on that. So hopefully within the next 2 to 3 months, we should have an idea of whether we're going to be successful or not. So that's good news. And that's all, Chairman.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Andrew. That's excellent. Councillor Prowse, I see you've raised your hand.
Yes, just with my chair of staffing hat on, Andrew, are you content to carry on that alone, or do you want any input from the committee?
No, I think, Chairman, we may bring the documents to committee for sight first, depending on timescales. We're in the middle of drafting them at the moment. So we can certainly bring them via staffing to look at them before we submit them to Torbay to send on to the DWP.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. So can I ask all councillors to raise a hand to note the Town Clerk's report, please?
Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so now my report for this past month has reminded me again that we have a genuinely caring and compassionate community here in Dawlish, including all the volunteers who, together with our projects officer, Angie Weatherhead, marshal the COVID safe parking and attendance at the vaccine clinics at Dawlish Hospital. The organisations in Dawlish delivering food and essentials, and the volunteers collecting medicines for those who are isolating, and to all who contribute donations and food to Helping Dawlish, the Dawlish Community Larder, and to the Strand Centre. Thank you to you all. Big thank you to all of our key workers, including the doctors and nurses at Dawlish Hospital, and locally in the community enabling the vaccine rollout, to all the emergency services and to staff in the NHS, to all farmers and shop staff, to teachers and parents enabling homeschooling, and to all who work in logistics and delivery drivers. And I repeat my thanks to all the firefighters at Dawlish Fire Station for all that they do, plus for providing support to the NHS and the ambulance service during this pandemic. I gave a presentation to the Dawlish and District U3A recently at their monthly virtual meeting, and also a report to the Dawlish Twinning Association. While putting my presentations together, it may be appreciated that it's the strength of all these community organisations, groups and connections together in Dawlish that are really keeping us going in these difficult times. So thanks again to all, and stay safe, hands, face and space. Okay, so moving on then to item number 9, County Councillors' reports.
None received, Chairman. I believe Councillor Clatworthy submitted his report in full last week.
Yes, he did, yes. Okay, thank you. So moving on then to District Councillors' reports. Councillor Wrigley, you please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've just got 3 things I think I'd like to bring to this council's attention from Teambridge. First is that this week, Teambridge started work on a block of flats with, I think, 5 flats in East Street in Newton Abbot, following on from the Drake Road 2 houses that were started before Christmas. These are the first council houses that are being built and delivered by Teambridge in some 25 or 30 years. And these will go forward and be ready late summer, early autumn for people to take on at the so-called social rent levels. So that's a major sort of step forward for Teambridge, starting to provide council housing, and this is the beginning of a programme that will grow. Secondly, to let you know about the COVID Community Hardship Fund, which some of you may have seen. This is a fund with some £50,000 in it that is open to voluntary and community groups. Now, it's particularly focused at improving digital access, reducing loneliness, and improving mental health. Now, there are no limits as to who can apply to this. This is intended for voluntary and community groups. So if you're in touch with groups in the town that can make use of this in these areas, then please do let them know about it. Grants will be available up to £10,000 each. So that is open, and details can be found on the Teambridge website. I know that our clerk and Angie were at a meeting earlier this week, a few days ago, where there were some details of this, and this may be of interest in the item, I think number 13 on our agenda today, and where that goes forward. And thirdly, we had some update on rough sleepers and homelessness, and some numbers from across Teambridge. These are not localized, this is across the entire patch. So very briefly, I think we can probably send you this report round. I suspect Andrew may have got a copy of the report from Tammy Hayes as well, so if I can ask him to circulate that round later. So over the period from March last year to January, we had some 43 rough sleepers across the area, of whom some 23 have moved into the alternative accommodation and are settled in there. The rest have gone off to various other places, and I'm not sure exactly how many are still out, but very few have gone back out onto the street, having been helped into temporary accommodation. It is, of course, a snapshot, and these things are likely to change. But in that same period, we also had 1,024 applications for homelessness, illustrating the difference between homelessness and rough sleepers. And of that, 467 households were prevented from becoming homeless, with some support or assistance to sustain their current accommodation or to secure alternative accommodation. 84 households who had already become homeless were supported into alternative accommodation. 207 homelessness cases are currently open, and 37 households currently in temporary accommodation. But given the conversations that we've had about rough sleeping and homelessness, I just wanted to bring those numbers, since we had an up-to-date snapshot, to people's attention, to show you the size of the issue across Teambridge as a whole. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wrigley. Thank you. Councillor John Petherick, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick update on COVID-19 community impact task and finish group. You'll recall that in July, the Overview and Scrutiny Committee requested that 3 groups were set up to establish the impact of COVID-19 on rural, coastal and urban communities within Teambridge District, and to make recommendations to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I was asked to lead the coastal group. At the time, we were confident that we were emerging from the pandemic. However, concerns began to grow quite rapidly towards the end of the summer, and our focus changed. The 3 groups met in October, and an online questionnaire was compiled and widely distributed to local councils, businesses and voluntary groups. The questionnaires have been returned, and the group recommendations will suggest that what actions and priorities the council should include in the review of the council strategy /recovery plan to support Teambridge communities in their recovery from the impact of the lockdown periods. The draft recommendations have been prepared and will be forwarded to ONS shortly. The group leaders met together with senior officers on Monday and decided that all Teambridge members should be invited to a recovery plan workshop on the 26th of February to consider the actions that we need to take and to move forwards, preparing and creating a strategy that will be deliverable across the district. Following the TDC workshop on the 26th, I'll feed back to you at our next town council meeting, and will probably suggest that we, Dawlish Town Council, also hold a members workshop and discuss the actions that we have already taken and consider the actions that we could take in the future to help our community. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pedrick. Thank you. Councillor Linda Pedrick, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of weeks ago, I think I sent an email around about universal credit. Just to update on that, the MPs have now voted against government's plans to cut the universal credit uplift of £20 per week. The vote to keep the £20 per week was approved 278 votes to 0. Because voting was non-binding, nothing has changed on the policy, but the result will still raise difficult questions and is hopefully a step forward. We will have to watch with interest on April the 12th to see what happens. Just to put this into context for you, Joseph Rowntree has quoted that 16 million people will be affected if the £20 per week is stopped. With the situation we are in with the pandemic, along with job losses, children being homeschooled, and the increase in mental health issues, how can keeping this increase not be the wrong thing to do? Also, the issues that I've been dealing with over the last few months have, as a Teignbridge councillor, have been really difficult for residents to deal with. The issues range from lack of financial income, not having enough to survive on, or to keep a roof over theirs or their family's heads. Abuse issues, which involve people not being able to share the same house anymore, and people who are at the end of their tether, which leads to mental health issues. And I can't believe the amount of phone calls I've had and emails I've had. People are no longer in control of their own lives through no fault of their own, and they just don't know what to do and they don't know where to turn. All this is nobody's fault. It's a result of the pandemic. And I have to say that Teignbridge are really working hard to help. And every time I've gone to them for guidance on signposting people, they've been really helpful and really supportive. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Linda Pedrick. Thank you. So I see we've got a few hands raised. Are these for questions for the district councillors? Councillor Moorhood, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, my question is to put to Councillor Ridley, please. I was interested to hear about the housing. I know that the first couple of houses were built on East Street, and the proposed current development is on Drake's Road. It's all in the Teignbridge newspaper letter, which I go through. I'm just interested to know how you got the funding for that. How are they paid for?
So those are funded from a number of sources. Part of it is government funding from Homes England. Part of it is funding from right to buy receipts that are still coming in from the stock that was there before. And part of it has been scraped from this, that and the other. So it's a combination of a number of different places. Those were all put into place last year. To find the exact details of exactly where all the funding came from, I'd have to go back and dig that out. But essentially, it's money in the housing funds in Teignbridge, buoyed up by government funds from Homes England.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moorhood. Councillor Heath, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. It was a continuation of Councillor Martin Wrigley on the housing again. I believe you're right, and just being qualified, I think that the houses that we've started, which is fantastic news, they are new builds, I'm right in saying, aren't they? They're not refurbishing of old properties. Right, well, my point was to keep an eye on it, and I know you will, because you're very keen on the climate change like me. But in fact, our editor, who's there today, Mr. Knight, see an article that he's published from me this week, if you want to read it. But I mentioned that we must be building, and our council must definitely do this, eco homes, because in 10 years' time, a lot of these homes will be boiler short, shall we say, and have to be refurbished, which would be a great cost to the ratepayers if we haven't got it right the first time round. So I just want to put it on note that if we are building any more, please make sure what your capacity is, I don't know any, but that you can get eco homes with very, very little heat loss. Otherwise, we'll have a £20,000 plus bill in 10 years' time to get the eco bit right for the new regulations. So let's be one step ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Heath. You're absolutely right, and I agree with you 100%. And yes, they are. So they are prioritised. That was one of the things that took a little time to get them together last year. They are at a very high standard, certainly in the carbon budget that's being used to build them, and the standards of heating that will be used. And we have had a further grant to actually support us in the installation of air source heat pumps for people with housing need rather than gas boilers. And that came in just a day or so ago, so that's hot off the presses.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wrigley. Thank you, Councillor Heath, for your question. I see Councillor Terry Lowther has his blue hand raised. Did you have a question, Councillor Lowther?
I did, yes. Yeah. Again, it's for Councillor Ridley. It's a popular one this evening. Certainly a popular subject. And I come without any political affiliation, so I can't be accused of favouring one side or the other, but I'm delighted that you started to build council houses. I think it's something that's been a long need. Everything that Councillor Linda Pedrick said is linked to that sort of thing. Housing is a desperate need for a good many people in the country at a proper price, and I'm sure you'll be making sure that you get it as proper price as possible. And I agree. Again, I'd like to refer back to Councillor Heath. Refurbishment, eco-friendly, all that sort of thing, all very important factors when we take that into account. But all parts of your elbow, more council houses the better.
Thank you very much. And just to add, these are being built on brownfield sites. They're it's not greenfield developments at all. So it hits all my buttons too. And thank you for your support, and I'll bring you more news as the programme develops.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wrigley. So can I ask councillors just to raise a hand to note those district councillor reports, please?
That's unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you. So town councillors' reports then, please. So could I ask town councillors to raise a hand if they'd like to give a report, please? So Councillor John Pedrick, I saw your hand raised first. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too am a member of the Councillor Heath Admiration Society, because I think he's pointing us all in the right direction regarding energy conservation, and he gave us an excellent chat a week ago, and he's keeping us all on our toes. But there's something that he might not know, but then he'll probably nod in agreement anyway, is that the government today have pledged £20 million to be available for county councils to provide charging points for electric vehicles. But this will be a great help for those who don't have private parking or lived in terraced houses. I'm not sure how it would work. It will probably be picking up from lampposts, but that was always a concern. People who had private driveways could buy electric vehicles because they could charge them at home. But people that lived in terraced houses and on streets without allocated parking would have a problem. So this is really good news. And £20 million, I'm not sure how many county councils there are, but that's a few million each, I would think. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pedrick. That's really interesting. Thank you. Councillor Prowse, you had your hand raised next. Please go ahead.
Just two things. Referring back to the late Reverend Bush, I would just like to comment on the fact that when he was mayor, his charity was to refurbish and update our war memorial, which I know Councillor Val looks after so very well now, but at the time it was very shabby. There were names that were not on there that should have been. people who died not at the war, but as a result of the war. And I was his deputy at the time and was privileged to be there when the Bishop of Exeter rededicated the war memorial. So I think it's really important to the town that we make a note that that was something he really did that has been long standing, and it looks lovely now. As Val, you know, you with your volunteers, you keep it beautiful. And the other thing I would like to throw into the mix is the NHS and all the volunteers have done an absolutely brilliant job, and I'm not knocking them in any way whatsoever. But we have forgotten under this pandemic the fact that we do not have a minor injuries unit yet in Dawlish, and it is very, very important. I fought very hard for this a long time ago with several other councillors of the time and doctors, and all I've had so far is a report that they are looking for staff. Now, I know they've got a lot on. I know that, but if we're not careful, this will get pushed further and further back. And people still have injuries today. And it's even more difficult to go to different places to have these injuries dealt with. So can I, on behalf of the residents of Dawlish to this council, suggest whatever we can do to get this minor injuries unit back up running, we really must do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Prowse. Thank you. Councillor Linda Pedrick, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Firstly, can I ask a question about the MRU and Councillor Dawson's report, and it ties in with what Councillor Price has said as well? Yeah. I sent an email out before Christmas, I think, saying that they were recruiting staff for the minor injury unit. So the question I want to ask, is that stopped now then, Councillor Dawson? Are you saying that they're no longer recruiting staff for the MRU unit?
That's not what...
You said that you were asked to gather data together about people who had gone to the Newton Abbot. But I was just wondering why they need that information if they are recruiting for the minor injuries unit.
They need that information because at the moment vaccinations are taking a priority across the UK. So although they're saying that they are still going to open MIU and they are still going to advertise and staff that, they're saying that at the moment the space is being used for vaccinations. And when I pointed out that I'd been contacted personally by a few people who had failed to be able to afford to access healthcare for children or for anyone in their family during the pandemic because they couldn't get onto public transport, didn't have the money, one of the GPs asked for me to collate some information to feed that back to him.
Okay, so they actually said they were recruiting before Christmas. So have they recruited? Has it been put off, or is it going to be in the future?
All they have said at the moment is that the MIU will still be opening, they will still be recruiting, but that the vaccinations have taken over and that they don't have much notice about the vaccinations either. So very quickly, Dawlish became a hub and everything changed.
Thank you for that. My report is that I've written a report about the progress of the Children's Trail and the flagship play park. It's now getting quite exciting as we've now got to the tendering stage of the project, and Oakwood College are going to have input into that, so there'll be a big support to us when it comes to the design part of it. We are hoping to bring the draft plans and the costings to the March Town Council meeting, and that we will then take the plans out for a major consultation with the Dawlish residents. Tomorrow night I'm attending the Chamber of Trade to update them on the project, so hopefully they will give us their input into it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pedrick. Thank you. Councillor Balmorehood, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't want to list all the meetings that I've just been to, every meeting and every working group. but I would like to just pass on a little bit of news, a little update on the tree planting scheme between the Woodland Trust and Timbridge for up on Sandy Lane. You will be aware that there were a lot of trees, I think it was about several hundred last year planted, whips as they're called. There's another section going to be planted. They're doing them in sort of copses. It was to have started by now, but there's been a bit of a delay getting the trees, but they will be beginning planting shortly. And subject to the COVID regulations, they would like some help, but that's depending on the situation. If I could just add something to what Councillor Prowse said about Councillor Bush. From my point of view, I'm pleased. I noted at the time that he was a leading member of the group who took out a charitable trust in order to restore the war memorial. And it's since, and they took out got the council to take out the first lease on there. And this is now, I think, our third lease since then. And it's because of him and his initiative and the group's initiative that we are now able to maintain the memorial garden for everyone to have quiet enjoyment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moorhood. Thank you. Any other town councillors with reports? Or can I ask councillors to raise a hand, please, to note all those reports, please?
That's unanimous, Chairman.
Excellent, thank you. So now we move on to item number 12, helping Dawlish to receive a verbal update as to the current operation of the Helping Dawlish collaboration. Can I invite Angie, if you'd like to present to us, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say the group continues to meet weekly of the organisations on a Tuesday lunchtime. The website and Facebook is continuously updated, and business information to help local businesses and residents find local services is updated weekly through the use of volunteers. We continue to operate the triage number where people can ring up and find out what community support is available to them. Only this morning, 12 hampers were delivered to schools and nurseries in the local area, specifically aimed at teachers and staff to raise their morale. And we've already started to get good feedback that hopefully it'll help the morale of teachers and those who are working so hard in schools and nurseries for our community. Helping Dawlish has received free PPE from the UK Community Fund, which is lottery funded. And we are working with the UK Community Fund to hopefully put an event online fairly shortly to address some social isolation issues and to engage the local community. We have also recently nominated, Helping Dawlish with the Mayor has nominated Debbie Williams as a community hero, and her profile is shown on the National UK Community Fund website. The Larder has made donations to both HITS and the Strand Centre, and due to the generosity of Dawlish residents donating into the donation bins that we have at the Co-op Funeral Care and also at the Co-op store, and through many other individual donations. Volunteer shopping has come back again. It only happened recently, about 3 weeks ago it started, due to calls from members of the public to assist Teambridge, and the Town Council is currently supporting that initiative as it moves forward. Helping Dawlish is hoping to make an application to the COVID Hardship Recovery Fund for a digital application, and we're still outlining the application, and it'll be involving all the organisations that are involved in Helping Dawlish, but I can't say a lot more about that at the moment. We are looking at rerunning a fish and chip run at the end of February for those who are isolated. As we know, morale and social isolation are big issues, and it is a big morale booster, and we're looking at that for the end of February. Currently, our insulated bags are being used by Teambridge CVS, and they put out a meal on every other Sunday, and they've borrowed our insulated bags rather than have them sat in a cupboard. My final report to make concerns the vaccinations at Dawlish Community Hospital. as that has tended to come within the Helping Dawlish remit, as often the group ask about it, and many from that group are involved in the volunteer effort. We are currently using Town Council volunteer marshals, Dawlish Celebrates Carnival volunteer marshals, Friends of Dawlish Hospital marshals, and many other independent people who have come forward. We have also had generous offers from the Rotary and the Scout leaders to join us in that effort. And at the moment, we are gradually rotating people as things happen. Today, for example, the volunteers in the car park helped contribute to 600 vaccinations inside the hospital. And the vaccinations this week are continuing for a further 3.5 days. And all of the volunteers are in awe of the NHS staff that are within the building carrying out the work. I think that's an update from Helping Dawlish, and I do apologise if I'm hoarse. I've been in the car park a lot of today.
Thank you very much, Angie, and thank you very much. Please pass on my thanks to all the volunteers and all the organisations for all the amazing work that you do. Thank you. Councillor Wrigley, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, but I think you've probably stolen my my thing. I was about to say thank you to Angie and to thank all of the people involved and everybody who's helping in Helping Dawlish to make it happen. It is it's a joy to see how the town comes together to help everybody who needs the help at this time. So thank you, and please look after yourself. Don't let that throat get any worse. We need you.
Thank you, Councillor Wrigley. Councillor Linda Pedrick, please go ahead.
I was just wondering if it'd be a nice thing for us as a town council, because I'm sure every single one of us on the town council would like to thank the volunteers for what they're doing. Would it be possible to send a letter from the town council giving them our thanks?
Thank you, Councillor Pedrick. I think that's a really nice idea. Councillor Main, did you have your hand raised just then?
I did, but that was only to say that I completely agree with Councillor Pedrick, and I'd second it if it needs seconding, because I think it's a wonderful idea.
Thank you. Thank you. So we've got a very good proposal which has been seconded. So can I ask all councillors to raise a hand if you're approve of that, of a letter being sent, please?
That's unanimous, Chairman.
Excellent. Thank you. And can I ask councillors to raise a hand to accept the Helping Dawlish report from Angie, please?
That's unanimous as well. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So then moving on to item number 13, this is Mental Wellbeing and Suicide Prevention Working Group, the OWL project. To consider approving a proposed project from the working group for it to begin working on. So could I ask Councillor Carol Tamlin as chair of that group to present this item, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, all right. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. The OWL project, I should just like to recap on the report that I sent out. It has been highlighted by many mental health organisations that loneliness in all ages can be a significant factor in suicide. This report is a draft proposed community project in the early stages, with the aim of reaching out to the community and highlighting the issues of loneliness. Our community has some 30% of over 65-year-olds. In addition, 9% of all households in Dawlish are elderly people relying on state support. It would be interesting to know how many do not have internet connections as well. This project fits in well with both district and county council strategies of addressing loneliness and mental health issues. We have shared the details of this project with them. In Dawlish especially, since the pandemic, we have seen a caring, kind, compassionate community working together. We would like to enhance this by, for instance, helping Dawlish Just as well is a good example. We would like to enhance this by highlighting and reducing loneliness further by empowering people to feel comfortable and become proactive around those who identify themselves as lonely. I should like to give you 2 examples. In the road where I live, a disabled lady's husband died suddenly and left behind a very active dog whom she could not walk. 2 kind neighbours visited her for condolences and now walks the dog on a daily basis. In a way, this benefits both ways. The neighbours feel good because they are showing acts of kindness, and it helps someone at a difficult time with support and regular contact. I also know of a number of people who pick up the phone on a daily basis to speak to people who live on their own and are lonely. Again, this kindness benefits both ways. How will the project help? Number 1, it will provide a resource pack to help lonely people. For example, helping you to cope with loneliness, very similar to the leaflet we sent out, helping you. Number 2, also a resource pack for organisations, volunteers, etc. And for example, an active checklist so people can actually listen. There is a skill and art to actually listening. Number 3, creating public awareness by placing posters on notice boards and in shop windows. Number 4, gathering information of kind, caring acts that organisations, support groups and individuals, volunteers are doing in the community to help lonely people. Number 5, to those who participate in the scheme, we would reward their efforts by presenting a certificate or an owl pin badge, hence the project's name, the owl. The owl that has got big eyes and he's very wise and he's looking around all the time. Number 6, we could consider an annual owl award to a nominated person or support organisation who have shown a great deal of commitment, compassion and kindness in reducing loneliness within the community. This could be a small pack. Thank you very much for listening, and we hope you are as enthusiastic as we are about this project. And I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carol Tamerlin. Thank you. It sounds really interesting. It sounds a really good project. Councillor Prowse, I think you had your hand raised first. Would you like to go ahead, please?
Yes, thank you. Well, yes, thank you, Councillor Tamerlin. Excellent, and I read all your paperwork. I thought it was first class. My query is that although we don't talk about it, there's an awful lot of people still in this world, and there will be even more after the pandemic, who don't read. So how do you get to these sort of people? It's because they don't want to tell you that they can't read. And it's a sort of hidden stigma, isn't it, not to be able to read these days. And because a lot of the elderly people have managed to get through life by sort of blagging it, it is now really important that they can read these things. Do you have any experience? Have you come across this? Because I know it's out there.
I haven't personally come across it, but if you've got volunteers who are perhaps, picking up the phone and speaking to them, and with helping Dawlish, they're visiting them, they perhaps know who they are, and we can identify them, then perhaps we can help them if they can be identified. I mean, perhaps for Open Door or the Strand Centre may know people who can't read and write, and with volunteers, I'm sure we can help them.
Thank you, Councillor Tamerlin. Thank you, Councillor Prowse, for that question. Councillor Wrigley, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Tamerlin. I think that's excellent. I think the project is fantastic and it has my full support. I think it's extremely well targeted and well thought through. There are so many different things out there, and it's easy to become overwhelmed with trying to fix everything in one go, and it's easy to sort of try to expand out to fix too many things. But I think you've found something that is a key issue. And this came up in the conversations at Teambridge as well, where we've been talking with many other community groups across the area, that loneliness and isolation is a key problem, especially now. So I think this initiative is an extremely well thought through one, extremely good, and you have my full support on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wrigley. Councillor John Pedrick, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very fortunate, really, because I've never really experienced loneliness, but I know that my father did before he passed away at the age of 97. So I think anything that will help people who are experiencing loneliness would be a tremendous benefit. And to our community, and particularly at the moment, because there are people that are shielding and just not able to get out and mix with others, and the weather's not being that good. So I think this is an excellent initiative. And if Councillor Tamlin has proposed this and Councillor Wrigley hasn't seconded it, then I'll gladly second it. Thank you.
Actually, Councillor Pedrick, I was actually, when I worked for Assist Teambridge, I was a carer, and I actually visited your father weekly.
I know.
And he certainly, you know, had lots to say and knew what was going on. He was a tremendous man.
Thank you for that memory. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Tamlin. Thank you, Councillor Pedrick. Councillor Moorhood, please go ahead. If you unmute, please.
On my own, but not on the big. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Picking up on a couple of things that were said, thinking of people who find it very difficult to read, I know two people. And as Councillor Tamlin said, I'm sure we all do, we phone people we know are on their own. And so that is one way to get information out to people who have those difficulties. And also, as I understand it, the group intends not to necessarily carry out these tasks, but to engage all the different groups, get them knitted together to see that they all do the best in their own areas. And it occurs to me that one we haven't thought of, or maybe some of you have thought of, is the newspaper, the talking newspaper, which would also get to some people who haven't got good eyesight and can't read. So I think there are going to be ways around people who are hard of hearing, have poor eyesight, or maybe can't read. These are all the things that the amazing groups that we have in this town will be able to scoop up and help, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moorhead. Yes, talking newspaper would be brilliant. So we need to contact them.
Thank you, Councillor Moorhood. And Councillor Dawson, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this project, and I really hope that it's something that gives the councillor a chance to help the community shine against loneliness, because loneliness, it's not about isolation, it's not about necessarily living by yourself. Some people are quite happy living by themselves, and loneliness affects anyone from children at school to mothers who are feeling alone by themselves, particularly if they're homeschooling or anything, right up to those who are older. I think it's a great opportunity for people of all ages and all walks of life to get involved in a way that fits their very local community. So if that means that they go for an owl award and they're reaching out to people in their street, then I think it's a really great opportunity. I hope that schools and other organisations would also come forward to get involved to make a difference in the community should the council pass it today.
Thank you, Rosie.
Thank you, Councillor Dawson. Councillor Wrigley, you've got your hand raised again. Is that go ahead, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just picking up on Councillor John Pedrick's point, I think what we need now is somebody to formally propose that we ask the Mental Wellbeing and Suicide Prevention Working Group to go ahead with this project and to continue on and to present to F&GP any needs for resources that they have to make it happen, and all power to their elbow. I suppose that's not probably a formal formal motion thing, is it? To encourage them to proceed as fast as they can.
Thank
So
you,
propose that.
Councillor Ridley. So we've got the proposal, we've got the seconder. All those in favour, please, of approving this, please raise a hand.
That's unanimous, Chairman.
Excellent. Thank you, councillors. And thank you very much to Councillor Tamlin and to all members of the working group for putting this together and for working out this project and for taking it forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now moving on to the next item on our agenda, the item number 14, initial draft tourism strategy document. So this is to receive the initial draft tourism strategy document and invite comments as to its contents, with the tourism strategy working group making further refinements at forthcoming meetings. So I'd like to invite Councillor Terry Lowther, please, as chair of the tourism strategy working group, please to go ahead and present this item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've spent a lot of time this evening dealing with current problems, hopefully successfully. This one deals really with something a bit more cheerful, perhaps it's looking to the future. Tourism is a vital part of Dawlish, it has to be. We are a tourist town. I've said many times, one of our great problems that when we're trying to decide what to do with ourselves, is we're not sure what we are. You know, what are we a tourist town, or you know, we keep messing about. We have to decide that we are a tourist town. That's what we are in business with, and that's what we depend on. That's what we've got to project in the future. So I have to say, first of all, that the document that you've been looking at and hopefully read word for word and committed to memory, most of that has been done obviously by your friend of mine, Andrew Overhead, in between leaping up and down the car park and doing dozens of other things that she does. She managed to put this lot together. And what you've got really is you've got the vision, priorities, and an action plan. I'm not going to go through all of it because it's not difficult, but we do need lots of help and we need imagination. Tourism is not just, and certainly for a place like Dawlish, it's not just an add-on, something to be quite nice to be good at. We have to be good at it. The town depends on it. We have people not making a living in the shops. We have a whole range of problems in Dawlish which need to be solved by increasing our income, basically, and increasing footfall is what we really need. We know that this town is a great town. Remember the days of the air show? 90,000 people. I mean, it felt wonderful. Now, I can't say, you know, we're going to come up with anything as wonderful as that. But, you know, we could have a go. We really could have a go. There are lots of things that we can do. We've put some ideas into this draft and we're grateful for your comments. Good ones, bad ones, ideas, doesn't matter how crazy they may appear. Let's have them and let's see what we can do. Let's see where we can go with them. I know there are lots of people with lots of ideas. I'm just waiting for Brunel to come up. So certainly, I bet we're going to have a Brunel down here somewhere before long. But there's lots of things we need to do, and we need to get on with it, and we're looking forward to doing that. So, if you haven't read it, please, and let's have your comments. I look forward to seeing them. And Angie, you can do another draft. She'll be wonderful at it. She's really, really enjoyed doing the job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lowther, and thank you to you and to all members of the working group and to Angie Weatherhead for putting this document together. It does look very good when I've been reading through it. So thank you for your time and your efforts putting that all together. We've got quite a few hands raised, so taking them in order, Councillor Wrigley, I think you had your hand raised first. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, thank you, Councillor Lowther and the working group. I think this is a great document. I think it's a fantastic start. Clearly, there's a lot of fantastic things in here, wonderful things that we need to be doing. I note the Lee Mount historical landscape opportunities. I note the bandstand. I note the Boat Cove, whole range of things, some of which are within our remit and some of which are outside of our remit, but we need to push to make happen. The one thing I'd be looking for from this with my F&GP hat on is which ones do we do first and how do we start aligning the monies and getting these projects going? Because something like the long-awaited bandstand is going to be a project that is quite long in incubation and will take some time to put together until we actually make it happen. So it's the sort of thing we should be thinking about kicking off now rather than waiting. So I'd like to see this. I'd like to see this go forward. I'd like to see the next sort of almost prioritization of the things we should be looking at first. And I'd like to see us get going on those ones that have the longer incubation time or gestation time so that we can make them happen. But thank you for the work. And I won't make the same mistake I made last time. And I propose that we accept this and move forward and urge the tourism group to continue on with their good work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wrigley. Next hand raised was Councillor Tamlin. Please go ahead.
There we are. I think it's an excellent report. Ros, it reminds me of our neighbourhood plan days, yes? When we went through things like that, but excellent report, well done.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tamlin. Thank you. Councillor Main, please go ahead.
Yeah, I've read the report. I haven't digested all of it and I haven't memorized it, but I know there's some very, very good points there. I think Dawlish is a town that relies on tourism. We've got a lot of residents, but we do rely on tourism. And I've realised through lockdown what dedicated shopkeepers we've got in town. We've got a family that run a clothes shop and a shoe shop, and they're doing live ladies' evenings online. Their PR is excellent, and some of the comments that they get, can't wait for you to open. We need to come and visit you. Next time we're down from Swindon, next time we're over from Taunton, we can't wait to come and see what you've got. And I think you should be bringing them into the group because they've just got the experience there. They know exactly what they're doing. I've noticed that during lockdown, one of the shops in Dawlish actually opened another shop in Torquay because they did so well with their online presence. Now, if that's not a success story, I don't know what is. So I think we need to bring the shopkeepers of Dawlish in onto this group. Not just we've got a Chamber of Commerce, but we need to speak to them. I spoke to one last year before we went into lockdown, and he was telling me that he's made arrangements with coach drivers to bring people to Dawlish, because it's down to the coach driver where they take their coach full of people. So I think we really need to engage with them as much as anything else. But I think all the ideas are fantastic, and if we had a bottomless pit, it would be the money would just keep flowing out, and we would be able to do wonderful things. I think we're going in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Main. Andrew, Town Clerk, please go ahead.
Chairman, I'm happy to go at the end. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Councillor John Pesrick, you're next. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm a member of the tourism group, and it's been an interesting experience. The tourism strategy document is comprehensive, and it's an excellent job, and well done to Angie. It's something that I couldn't have done. If I'd had a go, it would have been half a page of A4 with a very large font. So I think she's done extremely well. And I think we now have an excellent springboard from which to promote Dawlish. And I look forward to it actually being approved this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pesrick. Councillor Dawson, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's quite exciting times if we look at where we are at the moment, and that we need to have a recovery plan, and that people will be wondering how we're going to recover as a community from COVID and from these pandemic times. This is quite exciting, and I just wonder, I'm not even sure how it would be possible really, but all those people who rent out caravans, cottages, all the holiday parks, these are all the people that will have details of all the people who visited in the last 3 years. They'll have it as part of their databases, and I wonder if asking them to send questionnaires out to say what has brought you here, what will bring you back, would be another good start to really get that picture painted.
Thank you, Councillor Dawson. Councillor Prowse, please go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I also am a member of this group, and as Councillor Tamlin has already said, neighbourhood plan, CIC, been in business in this town for 10 years, been here a very long time. It's a wonderful document, and it's got a lot of knowledge in it, a lot of us going back a long way. For me, the great sadness is that I've seen most of these things written down in the past. The only thing that is different most probably is the boat cove and what we would like to achieve there that wasn't there 40 years ago. And the way we look at cycle paths and the railway wasn't there 40 years ago. But when I go down through this list, there are many things there. So when we actually, and I hope we will, take this document on board tonight, remember that we do actually really need to do it. And although I won't be here in 40 years' time, you'll be happy to know, I wouldn't like the council of the time to be looking at a document that is very similar to this, saying we will do these things.
Thank you, Councillor Prowse. Councillor Lowther, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering how we're going to manage in 40 years. Well, Councillor Prowse, the place will be the same. Yes, thank you for all your comments. I mean, we will take all those on board. Just to reassure Councillor Main that talking to the active members of the traders and the shopkeepers, the retailers, is very high on our list. I mean, we do realise that we do need to get them round us, give us some information. Getting some other people involved is in fact going to be the next step that we take. And your and Councillor Main's suggestions are very good. Others we certainly want to bring along with us, because we need to carry the town with us. So we won't disappear off into a corner scratching our heads about making up fancy ideas that aren't going to go anywhere. We want ideas that people want to see, want to do. A lot of them, as Councillor Prowse said, have been knocking about for a long time. The one thing we've got to do is really do them, because if we can't do all of them, we've got to at least do some of them. And yeah, I noticed that Councillor Wrigley is nodding vigorously, and I noticed he mentioned the bandstand. Whenever anybody mentions the bandstand, I immediately think of a town band. I love to have a town band. I've even got a volunteer who says he would help to teach people and help organise it. So there's lots of things that we can do, and I'm grateful for your comments. As I said before, grateful for Andrew for doing all the sway work. I'm grateful for your help, and please keep ideas coming in. whatever you think of, 3 o'clock in the morning, think of something. I won't say write to us, but give us an email or something. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lowther. Councillor Moorhood.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was quite happy to come in at the tail end because I'm sure the clerk has got something specific to this group. But I would still like to say something after, if I may.
Right, okay. Okay, Andrew, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Most of what I was going to say has been said, actually, but this is obviously the first of probably several iterations of the document that's before you. This is just to really show you what the group has been up to date. Obviously, we did have a deadline of December, but that has slipped slightly, but I don't think we've done too bad. It is very much an aspirational document. I think it's reasonable that many of the projects that are listed here simply won't be delivered by the Town Council alone. It's going to involve different organisations, district, county, environment agency, a number of different people. So it's basically, in a perfect world, this is what we'd love to see happen, but we understand that that might not happen, and it's what we can deliver. And I think future versions of this document will identify which organisations we need to go and nudge and poke to bring along. Funnily enough, I understand that Teignmouth Town Council last night or on Monday, I'm not sure when it was, they actually discussed something very similar from Eastcliff Car Park and the provision of coach parking. So it's a common theme that raises its head, and this type of document will hopefully address things like that. So yes, as the chairman of the group has said, any suggestions are welcome. We have got the coastal officer from Teambridge coming to our next meeting to discuss what the district plans are for Boat Cove. And we've also got in mind to invite the Chamber of Trade, Dawlish Warren Tourism, before the document goes out wider. And this document isn't Dawlish Town, it's the parish of Dawlish, and that's really important, and a message the group has been keen to stress. It will stretch from Cockwood to Holcombe, taking in the Warren and the town at the same time. So obviously Dawlish Town is the biggest residential area, so many of the projects will be for that area, but we're keen to know what we can do in the other areas to encourage people to go and have a look and explore. So yeah, again, pass the message on and get those comments coming in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you. So we've had a proposal to accept and to approve this draft tourism strategy document, and I think I remember hearing it being seconded. Before we go to the vote, Councillor Moorhood, did you wish to speak now?
If I may, Madam Mayor, looking at this document and all the work that's gone into this, producing this, and the work that the group members have put into it, the previous document from the Mental Wellbeing and Suicide Prevention Group, as Deputy Mayor, I'm invited to take part in every working group and every meeting, and I have done that, sometimes in an irritating manner, but it gives me an overview of the pure energy that is within this council. And I'm really proud and happy to be involved with it. And I hope if the town had, the townspeople, the parishioners had an inkling of how much work and how much enthusiasm is going into this and how much we want to do things to help with the recovery, to help in general, I think they would be equally pleased with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moorhood. Thank you. So we've had proposal, and I'm sure it did get seconded. Councillor Prowse, I can see you have your hand raised. So please, could I ask all councillors in favour of approving this to please raise your hand?
That's unanimous, Chairman.
Excellent, thank you. And thanks very much again to all in the Tourism Strategy Working Group, and to Councillor Lowther and to Angie for putting this together. Thank you. So now moving on to item number 15 on the agenda, resumption of in-person meetings. So this item is looking at receive the resumption of in-person meetings reports to determine which committee schedule to follow from the 7th of May this year should remote meetings provision end, and to adopt the in-person meeting protocol and associated documents. Now, I've been quite interested in reading these documents. However, my personal opinion is that it's too premature to consider this item at tonight's meeting, and I'd like to propose that we defer this item to the April meeting of Town Council. So do any other councillors have any comments they wish to make? Please, Councillor Ridley, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I absolutely agree with you. I was going to suggest exactly the same thing. To me, it is very clear that the situation will not be as expected when this order was put into place, which was back in March last year. It is absolutely certain in my book that this order is unlikely to be rescinded on the 7th of May. And in fact, as well as deferring, I would suggest that we write to the appropriate government minister or ministry, if not the Prime Minister, to say that we don't believe that it will be safe to resume in-person meetings for the 7th of May. Certainly, I know before the meeting, a lot of people on the council were talking about how they were being inoculated against the virus, which is absolutely welcome, and that's fantastic news. But I also know that some of us with vulnerable family members are unlikely to be inoculated anywhere near May, let alone later into the summer. So it's not going to be safe to resume meetings. It would be a difficult thing. Let's review in April when we have a better picture. And I'm quite sure by then the government will have changed its mind and reviewed that date and taken us into the future. So I support your proposal to defer until April.
Thank you, Councillor Wrigley. And that was a proposal to write to the Prime Minister as well, was it? Did you mention that? Please, can I just check that with you, Councillor Wrigley?
Yes, to the appropriate government, whether it's I'm not sure if it's, I'm sure the clerk can advise whether it's a minister or whether it's the Prime Minister or whether it's whichever agency, because we don't, it's asking a lot.
Thank you, Councillor Wrigley. Well, I'm happy to second you on that proposal to write a letter to the government. Thank you. Councillor Dawson, you were next with your hand raised, I think. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I was just about to put my hand down actually, because it's already been said by Councillor Wrigley. I was just going to suggest that we get in touch with the government and highlight our concerns, because actually May isn't that far away, and we have a lot of people in this community who won't even be able to be vaccinated, and I think we need to be looking ahead right now and asking these questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dawson. Councillor Moorhood, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, it's very helpful to have this in front of us. We've got time to think about it and study it, should this be the case nearer the time. But I agree that we're in such an uncertain situation with different mutations and different government decisions. I think nobody can foresee a week or a fortnight ahead, never mind 2 or 3 months. And I agree with something that was just mentioned then. It's all very well for someone like myself who, God willing, will still be around and will have had my second vaccination. But we could well be disenfranchising younger members of this council, and that's not fair. We need a full range of opinions and experience in order to work on behalf of our residents. So I definitely support the idea that we defer this decision until April. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moorhood. Thank you. Councillor Main, please go ahead.
I understand completely what we're saying. We don't know what we're doing tomorrow, let alone what we're going to be doing in May. I think we have to ask Andrew where we stand with this. If it is set in stone, if we do have to make a decision now, and if we do have to make a decision now, can we make one that's just 3 months in the future and revisit this every couple of months? I don't know if because we made a decision to do it for a year, then we're stuck with that. I mean, I would like advice from Andrew on this, if that's possible.
Chairman, if I may, the resolution has been worded in a way that it would only apply if the regulations were to cease. So if members chose an option tonight, they would only come into effect if the regulations ceased on the 7th of May. If the government were to continue with with virtual meetings, then obviously that was the route that we would continue with. The reason for the agenda item is the Dawlish Association and the National Association have written to all local council clerks advising us to start preparing now because the government, whilst they've been lobbying them, have made it clear they have no intention currently of changing these regulations. And the same is going for the May elections. They are still being scheduled. In fact, I've had a letter last week asking for my availability to work it. So everybody in that sense is still planning for these events. We're very lucky in the sense that for whatever reason, we were fortuitous when we set our programme of meetings that the annual meeting is actually scheduled the day before the regulations cease. So you'd at least be able to have that done virtually. But really, it was more to bring it to members' attention, give you the chance to select an option in the event that it doesn't happen. But we obviously have leeway should the government change their mind at the last minute, which we know is not uncommon during the pandemic, which I can understand in some ways. But at least on this one, I'm trying to give you as much prior warning as possible.
Thank you, Andrew. That's sort of what I thought the way it was going. I mean, I think we can just go with really vote to note this more than anything else, I think, unless I've got it completely wrong.
Oh, Chairman, can I just, sorry, Chairman, can I just jump in there? Members may wish to note the report and perhaps consider the determination of the options in April. You could do that. Pending any change, that would be a reasonable approach.
Thank you. That's what I propose. Then I don't know if that's okay or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Councillor Main. Okay, Councillor Heath, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I just want to ask the question the other way around, just going on from Councillor Main's question as well. I think I got this right. If the government expires the legal framework that we're working in, obviously we voted ourselves. Let's say, for example, they say, right, that's ending. We have to go back to personal meetings. Do we, as a local council, have a legal framework to say that's fine, but we don't have to follow it? We can still vote and do Zoom, or do we have to actually? You're nodding yes. Right, okay. Well, that is quite a serious thing then, because if we're literally forced to, and when we don't have any legal framework to vote against it, we're forced to go together, then I think, yeah, we should, all of us here, definitely vote for as long as postponement as possible until the case numbers are in very reasonable figures. And what reasonable is probably one, but you know what I mean. They're not up in the thousands anymore. So yes, I'm fully in favour of us putting it back as far as we can.
Thank you very much, Councillor Heath. Councillor Carol Tannin, please go ahead.
I'm going to ask her back on a point there, actually, Madam Chair.
Happy to wait, Chairman, if you want to go to Councillor.
Sorry, please go ahead, Andrew. Sorry.
No, all I was going to say was obviously this doesn't affect just Dawlish Town Council, it affects every local authority across the country and the Police and Crime Commissioner meetings. Yes, if the regulations expire, the government isn't going to make them end. They've simply put a clause in that would allow the regulations to cease on a certain date. And it's unfortunate that that hasn't been flagged up well in advance, that, oh, we might need to renew those. Obviously, they didn't foresee where we might be this time last year, but that is the reality. Meetings would then have to take place face to face, but of course members do have the option of offering their apologies if they didn't feel comfortable coming. And as has been mentioned in the report, if it was likely that, you know, members felt nervous or unsafe or were even required to shield still, then they would require the council to approve the reasons for the apology, so that no one fell foul of the 6-month rule, where you would automatically be disqualified as a member for non-attendance, essentially. But of course, the issue is a quorum. If a third, 2/3 of the council are required to shield or self-isolate, we could run into the situation where we don't have enough members to make the meetings quorum. And again, this is something that will be an issue across the country. So it's just trying to make it work, really. And I've tried to put something in place to prepare us if that happens. I would like to think that the government will have a change of heart, but the message from them is they do not have the legislative time left in Parliament to implement it, and it will require primary legislation to change. So that's the situation we're in at the moment.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. So, Councillor Tamlin, would you like to go ahead, please?
I would be quite happy for Zoom meetings to stop. However, I hear what you're saying and I agree with the proposal. In the report, I read that every effort was being made to keep the premises and people COVID safe if we should have to give up the Zoom meetings and have face-to-face meetings. And I just wondered what people think district might, any views on whether district, what they're thinking, and whether we'd have to go in line with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tamlin. Thank you. Councillor Taylor, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Very interesting to hear the comment just now from Councillor Tamlin about looking forward to the Zoom meetings stopping. I'm actually looking forward to them continuing for right into the future. There are, in praise of Zoom, before it finds itself riding off into the sunset clause that awaits it in May, is the fact that it makes it much more accessible to all walks of life, and to people who may not have considered wanting to join the council. Perhaps they lack mobility, or scores of other reasons why speaking as we are now would be good. I think it certainly has a place, and I do also appreciate that our clerk has worked hard to put the options together for us tonight, even if it's only as a preview. I do feel that it's premature that these meetings will come to an end, given the situation we're in nationally now. Even though Devon is one of the lowest rates of infection in the country, but certainly there are some interesting options here. My personal favourite, although we haven't debated it yet, and I may change my mind come the point in time when we do debate it, is one where we have as fewer contacts from the first meeting that we have. There's fewer contacts as is absolutely necessary. So that would be option C. But that's perhaps for another day. But I did want to just say something in praise of Zoom. There we are.
Thank you very much, Councillor Taylor, and I like your comment in praise of Zoom. Councillor Linda Petherick, you're next. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'd like to second Councillor Main's proposal, but also I think if the town clerk could contact Teambridge before he writes to the Prime Minister and have a word with Teambridge, they might talk through some different ideas with him. Some of what I've heard today, we talked about in a meeting, what Councillor Taylor's talked about. They've talked about the possibility of that for the future. Also the possibility of some being in the council chamber and some being on Zoom, but that's not going to work because the people that will be on Zoom would possibly feel left out. So I think just jumping off and writing a letter to the Prime Minister at this moment in time is perhaps not what's needed, but maybe if this gets deferred, which I agree with the Mayor we should do, then maybe if we've got no further information, we could do a letter in April. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pedrick. Thank you. Councillor Terry Lowther, you're next, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You're lost. Yes, I agree with Councillor Linda Pedrick and Lisa Main. I can't believe that the government is going to try to make us endanger ourselves to the extent that they are talking. Crazy as they are, I don't think that's crazy. They have changed their mind in some ridiculous situations. I think they'll change their mind against this one. There'll be some reason that they can find to find more time. There's a gentleman with a tall hat that is in charge of the agenda for House of Commons meetings. I'm sure he'll find some devious means of finding the time. It would be lunacy. And I mean, in answer to the question about whether we would have to do what the district does, the district would have to do what the government says we would all have to do. Not just town councils or parish councils, county councils. It's the whole council system would have to start doing something which is ludicrous in the situation. And I mean, you're quite right. We are not going to be fit as a country. We won't be fit to get together in groups by May. So I suggest, I know I'm seconding something that's already been seconded, but I agree entirely that we should defer this until the meeting in April. Let's have a little mental wrangling ourselves about which of the options we prefer and all that sort of thing. And we can fight with each other about whether we like Zoom or not. But I'd be surprised if the situation still exists by then, frankly. I've been proved wrong. I was wrong once before, 1947 it was, I remember. And I could be wrong again, but you know, I can't see him pushing it that far.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lowther. Thank you. Councillor Mary Lowther, you're next, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. All has been said, so I really have got nothing else to say. I was going to second Councillor Main's suggestion, proposal, I presume. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowther. So, Councillor John Pedrick, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I mean, quite frankly, what's been suggested or what might happen in May is just not deliverable, because if we're still expected to maintain social distancing of 2 meters, we can't all get into the chamber. I mean, we could perhaps hire a football stadium and meet there and save distance. But it would also be interesting to see what happens in Parliament, because if you do glance at the TV from time to time, you'll see about 12 people in the Houses of Parliament. Are they suggesting that in May all 600 are going to return to one room? I find that highly unlikely. I think we need to defer this.
Thank you, Councillor Pedrick. Thank you. Councillor Wrigley, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just in response to Councillor Tamlin's question about what Teambridge is doing, As soon as this came up on our agenda, I asked the leader at Teambridge and asked whether Teambridge would, what we would be doing there. And essentially the answer came back saying that there is no consideration that this will even happen in May. So it's not even on their agenda yet to look at. I think DALC has been premature in its concern upon this. It is a concerning aspect if it does come to this, but I think it's very clear, as Councillor Terry Lowther was saying, and I don't think he's wrong in this occasion. And I'll look forward to hearing the details of when he was wrong in 1947, because it's a rare occasion that he's wrong. He's certainly right in this one, that this is almost certainly going to be moved backwards by the government. So that's the answer. So the reason I spoke was to answer the Teambridge question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ricky. Thank you. Councillor Martin Heath, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, basically, it has been covered by John Petherick, but I just wanted to sort of reiterate what he said another way, because this is what I was thinking. Last time we did, before we locked down, we had a gap between each chair, so that means about 8 of us could turn up. I just cannot believe it would make scientific sense. Suddenly, all of us are there with no spacing. So someone will be, I hope, rethinking all this through. And although someone has sort of put a damper on the idea of doing what they're doing in the House of Commons, that is a Zoom and some members present, I think that might be the way forward, that with split screens and we can have those at home for not just shielding reasons, but, you know, maybe that they would prefer to be occasionally, and that can be swapped round. I don't see why someone at home should feel not part of it. I mean, do we all feel not part of it? Yes, we're all together with this. I understand that. But I think we've got to think slightly differently, think outside the box, and say this could be a way forward. It will also save CO2, because we're not all driving our individual cars. So I know some of us lovely walk there. But basically, I can't see them doing this. We need to think differently. And if we do write a letter to the government, I think we should include the idea of perhaps some in and some out, to not only save fuel, but it's just common sense. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Heath. Thank you. I like those comments. So we have 3 different proposals, all that have been seconded. So first proposal to defer this item to the April meeting, which was seconded by Councillor Wrigley. Then the proposal from Councillor Main, seconded by Councillor Linda Petherick, to note this report. And then the third proposal to write an urgent letter to the Prime Minister and to Robert Jenrick, who is the Minister of State for Communities, Housing and Local Governments, which was proposed by myself, proposed by Councillor Wrigley and seconded by myself. Sorry, Councillor Moorhood, I didn't see your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I've got rather mixed up as we've gone along. I would just like to say not everybody likes Zoom, but we have managed to carry out a tremendous amount of work by using Zoom. And I believe at some stage, somebody proposed that we noted the report and also deferred the decision until April. I don't know, I think that was Councillor Main. And if that's the case, I think someone already seconded. I'll third in that case, just to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moorhood. So the proposal to defer this to the April meeting was from myself and seconded by Councillor Wrigley. So I've just read those 3 proposals. So could I ask for all in favour of proposal to defer to... Sorry, Andrew, did you wish to speak first?
Sorry, Chairman, it was just a point of clarification on a couple of comments that were made on the council chamber and its suitability for meeting. The community centres have to abide by COVID secure guidelines, and of which the Manor House is one. And if you're COVID secure, you are allowed to have social distancing at 1 metre plus, as long as mitigating steps are in place. So as long as people are wearing a face mask, which is a requirement in community centres now anyway. You are allowed to sit at a 1 metre distance, and I have measured out the council chamber and we can fit everybody in, and 7 members of the public plus 1 member of the press. So should a worst case scenario that everybody turned up for a meeting, they can be suitably accommodated in line with COVID secure guidelines.
Thank you, Andrew.
And that has been done with a tape measure, just for clarification.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Thank you. So could we go?
We've lost you, Alison.
Okay, so could we go for those proposals, please? So the first proposal was proposed by myself, seconded by Councillor Wrigley, to defer this item and defer the decision to our April full town council meeting. Could I have a show of hands, please, of all those in favour?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, Chairman.
Thank you. And all those against, please raise a hand.
1, 2, 3. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, Chairman.
Thank you. Any abstentions?
None. So that's carried, Chairman.
Thank you very much. So next proposal is to note this report.
Well, Chairman, sorry, you've just deferred the whole item to the April meeting, so it stands in abeyance now until then.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. And then the other proposal to write an urgent letter to the Prime Minister and the Minister of State for Local Government, Robert Jenrick, proposed by Councillor Wrigley and seconded by myself. All those in favour, please raise a hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, Chairman.
Thank you. And all those against, please raise a hand.
1, 2, 4, 6, Chairman.
Thank you. Any abstentions? Okay.
Thank you. That's approved.
That's brilliant. Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. So, Councillor Main, I see you've got your hand raised. Thank you.
Mostly Councillor Main gone. Oh.
Please go ahead, Councillor Main.
Why wasn't the vote taken on my proposal to defer and note it? Why wasn't that taken? I don't understand.
Chairman, perhaps the confusion arose because you made a proposal, not an amendment. I'm not sure.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
I can see Councillor Price raising around. She might know.
Thank you. Councillor Prowse, please go ahead.
Andrew, we had 2 proposals on the table. The mayor's came in first, then came Councillor Main. We should have taken Councillor Main as an amendment. We should have voted on that first, and we haven't done. So we have done it the wrong way round, and we have now agreed to the first proposal. That is not strictly legal, as you well know.
Well, I don't know about the legality of it, Councillor Prowse, but I think the confusion has arisen that it was made as a proposal and not an amendment to the original proposal.
That is for the mayor. That's the mayor's job to pick that up. Even though the mayor made the proposal, it was for her to have picked that up, Andrew. I'm not happy about that.
Chairman, I mean, my advice is that the vote's been taken now. I mean, essentially, the amendment was to note the report and defer the decision. And what the original proposal has done is just defer the whole thing to April. So semantics, I think, at play.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Councillor Main. Thank you, Councillor Prowse. So thank you, councillors, for attending this evening's meeting. Thank you. I now declare this meeting closed. So thanks, everybody. Take care, stay safe, and remember, hands, pace, and space. See you later. Thank you. Bye.